hang on a second. Why the jihad? Why can't Islam just have peace with us? Well, Ibrahim gives us the point of origin. It all started after Roman Emperor Heraclius refused to submit to Islam. And then the winner of the world's pastiest false prophet award declared eternal war on Christendom. Surah 9, verse 29 of the Quran. Fight those who believe not in Allah, nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. So Heraclius refuses to convert, and Muhammad's sock puppet declares endless war on Christians? How does that follow? Here's how. In Arabia, society was built on 3 pillars: loyalty to one's own tribe, hatred for enemy tribes, and finally, raiding and looting said enemy tribes. Through a series of conquests, Muhammad had unified the local Arab tribes under his new super tribe, Islam. So when Heraclius refused to join Muhammad's tribe, the Roman Christians became his tribe's enemies to raid and loot forever and ever.
Well, it seems like Psycho Ex-Con PDF David Wood is sleeping over his boyfriend Apus's house, or he's cheating on his boyfriend Apus with homeless Hatun Trash in a trash can, or wherever Hatun Trash lives these days. Either way, David Wood is using his son to make his stupid and retarded videos. So we are going to be, I'm going to be refuting this video, and again, it's the same. There's no new arguments. It's just the same old Quran 929 ripped out of its historical context, etc. So we are going to prove that the Quran 929 has been taken out of its historical context. So it seems like his son, David Wood's son, is just as stupid and dumb as he is, and David Wood's son is possibly another PDF or an ex-con. Anyways, David Wood's son is just as attention-seeking as his father. So, it's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I can tell that his son is a annoying attention seeker like David Wood is. So let's get into refuting this false claim. It seems like they misquoted the Quran chapter 9 verse 29, or took it out of its historical context. The historical context of the Quran chapter 9 verse 29 does not entail, or does not promote offensive warfare or forced conversion to Islam. I will explain the historical context to this Quranic verse right now. On the surface, this appears to be an open-ended command to fight non-Muslims or Christians or Jews, etc., until they are conquered or pay the jizya. However, the fundamental principle of Quranic exegesis, or tafsir, is that the verse, Quran chapter 9 verse 29, must be understood in the context in which they were revealed, Ashab al-Nuzul, and in conjunction with other verses detailing the rules of warfare according to the Quran and Islam, etc. So if you just rip a Quranic verse out of context and you don't give it its proper historical context, or you just take things out of context, you can prove whatever you want. I could do that with the Bible. I could just take a verse out of context and prove whatever I want to prove. So that's not really a fair way to deal with the Bible. Same thing with the Quran. Taking a Quranic verse out of context is not, and just throwing it out there and throwing your own and spinning your own interpretations is not fair to the Quran. We have to look at the historical context to the Quran and what the Quran is talking about, or why that Quranic verse, Quran 929, was revealed. We have to look at the historical context, or Ashab al-Nuzul, which is circumstance of revelation. So let's take a look right now. On the surface, this appears. Okay, so let's look at the Quran chapter 9 verse 29. Let's look at the historical context. Al-Tabari, who was a early Muslim scholar, and other commentators like him record that this verse, Quran 9:29, was revealed concerning the expedition of Tabuk, or the War of Tabuk. Al-Tabari records Mujahid reported according to the verse, "Fight those who do not believe in Allah in the last day." It was revealed when Muhammad and his companions were commanded with the expedition of Tabuk. In this Tafsir al-Tabari, Quran chapter 9 verse 29. Tafsir al-Tabari again is a very important early Quranic tafsir, or a early Quran commentary that explains the historical context behind certain Quranic verses. So the expedition of Tabuk was preceded by the Battle of Mu'tah, which began when the emissary of the Prophet, so Prophet Muhammad was sending messengers to the Roman Empire and the Persian empires, etc. And this messenger, or this scribe of the Prophet Muhammad, was assassinated while delivering a letter to the Roman emperor, or the Roman allies. So that's the whole. So these Romans killed the messenger, or the scribe of the Prophet Muhammad. So that's the whole reason why the Quran 9:29 was revealed, was because the Romans started it. The Romans killed a messenger of the Prophet Muhammad, and when you kill a messenger or a scribe of somebody, that's a declaration of war. So the Romans started this conflict, not the Muslims, not the other way around, not the Prophet Muhammad and the early Muslims. So the Romans were responsible because they killed one of Prophet Muhammad's allies, and killing an ally, again, in ancient times was a declaration of war. So the Romans started this conflict with the early Muslims, not the other way around. The expedition, or the march to Tabuk, was preceded by the Battle of Mu'tah, which began when the messenger of the Prophet Muhammad was assassinated while he was delivering a letter to a Roman ally, or the Roman emperor. So the source of this is Zad al-Ma'ad, page 336, and the Sealed Nectar, page 245. So the expedition to Tabuk. So the whole reason why the Quran 9:29 and the expedition of Tabuk was, why the Muslims did that, was because the Roman Empire, or the Romans, killed a messenger of the Prophet Muhammad. So that's what triggered. That's what started the Quran. That's what started the conflict with the early Muslims and the Romans, because the Romans started it. The Romans killed a messenger of the Prophet Muhammad, or an emissary of the Prophet Muhammad, and when they killed him, when you kill like an ally, that means that's a declaration of war. So again, like I said, that's the whole reason. The Romans were the whole reason why the Quran 9:29 was revealed, and why the Prophet Muhammad marched towards Tabuk. This was the first act of Roman aggression against the Prophet Muhammad and the early Muslims that further led to the march to Tabuk, concerning the verse and the reason why Quran 9:29 was revealed. The verse describes the aggressors as those who do not believe in Allah in the last day, because they committed this act of war and treachery, executing messengers and emissaries from other countries is a war crime that could never be committed by those who sincerely believe in God. But anyways, even if you look at it from a secular point of view, if you kill, like if Russia kills an American, I don't know, diplomat or something like that, then America's going to get involved with Russian affairs, because if Russians are killing, American politicians or diplomats who are sent from America to Russia, and again, I'm just using this as an example, that's a declaration of war. That is not a good thing when like other countries kill, diplomats and important people from other countries. That's a declaration of war. So that's the whole reason why the Quran 929 was revealed, etc., was because these Romans were killing messengers of the Prophet Muhammad and allies of the Prophet Muhammad. And when you kill an ally and a messenger, it is a declaration of war. So that's the whole reason why the Quran 929 was revealed, and the whole conflict between the early Romans and the Muslims came to be, was because of them killing and assassinating allies of the Prophet Muhammad. So we have to look at the historical context or the circumstance of revelation behind the Quran chapter 9 verse 29. So therefore, this context, now that we know the historical context to the Quran chapter 9 verse 29, we can clearly know who should be fought, especially the aggressors among the Jews and Christians, and not all of them. Now obviously Jews and Christians don't really harm or don't really kill Muslims these days, so the Quran 929 can't really be applied today. I don't think it can be, because Jews and Christians and other non-Muslims just don't attack Muslims. They don't physically attack them, or they don't like declare war on them usually. So like a lot of Jews and Christians are peaceful people who just want to be left alone, or they don't want to fight Muslims, or they don't want to physically fight Muslims, etc. So that's why Quran 929 can't be really applied today. Or at least from my point of view, I don't think Quran 929 can be applied today, because a lot of Jews and Christians are peaceful people. They don't want to fight Muslims. But Quran 929 can be applied if Jews and Christians are the aggressors, or the ones who are fighting Muslims first. So the Quran 929 is a defensive verse and not an offensive verse, given the historical context. Rather, many other verses of the Quran make it clear that it is unlawful to initiate hostilities amongst other peaceful nations. The Quran is clear: do not attack peaceful people or non-fighting people. There are many verses in the Quran which say you cannot attack peaceful or non-fighting people against the Muslims. If there's a group of people and those people are peaceful and they are not aggressive, and they're not aggressive towards Muslims, or they're not aggressors against Muslims, they are to be left alone. The Quran is clear: do not attack peaceful people who are just minding their own business. The Quran is very clear on that, and I'm going to give the verses right now. Okay, so the Quran is clear: do not attack peaceful people or non-fighting people. Here are the verses where peaceful people or non-fighting people are to be left alone. Quran 2 verse 190, Quran chapter 2 verse 193, Quran chapter 2 verse 256, Quran chapter 8 verse 61, and Quran chapter 4 verse 90. None of these verses were abrogated, so don't play that game, and still apply today. Also, the Quran chapter 2 verse 256 says there's no compulsion in religion to Islam, so Islam cannot be forced on anyone. Quran chapter 2 verse 256 again is not abrogated; it still stands, because Umar ibn Khattab was quoting the Quran chapter 2 verse 256 after the Prophet Muhammad died. So that means the Quran chapter 2 verse 256 still applies today. There's no forced conversion to Islam. If someone doesn't want to convert to Islam, they don't have to, according to the Quran chapter 2 verse 256. So this verse still applies today. So there's no forcing people to convert to Islam, and there's no fighting against non-aggressive people or peaceful people, according to the Quran, because the Quran makes it very clear that do not attack peaceful people or non-fighting people or non-aggressors against Muslims. And again, the Quran chapter 2 verse 190, the Quran chapter 8 verse 61, etc. is explicitly clear on this, that if they have a peace treaty with you, don't fight them, don't attack them. The Quran chapter 2 verse 190 says, fight those who only fight you. So these are self-defensive. So the Quran says fight in self-defense, not in offensive measures.
Wouldn't really be surprising. So when the heroes of their faith tell us, we are blood drinkers, and we want to spill and drink your blood, remember, the jihadis have done it before.
The hadith or the saying is weak or inauthentic. I can't find any credible source that talks about, the Arabs saying, we want to drink blood and the Greek blood tastes better. I don't see any, there's no authentic or reliable hadith talking about this, so this hadith can be thrown out. It's not reliable. This is the saying of Khalid and cannot be used as evidence or used at all. So this hadith or the saying of Khalid cannot be used as evidence. Further, the Prophet Muhammad explicitly said in hadith that don't mutilate corpses, don't drink human blood, etc. The Prophet Muhammad said that very specifically, that don't behead people, don't mutilate corpses, don't disrespect dead bodies, etc. So that means blood drinking is not allowed according to the Prophet Muhammad in Islam. So mutilating corpses or chopping up dead bodies and all that is not allowed in Islam. So drinking human blood is not allowed in Islam, etc., etc. So this hadith of Khalid cannot be used as evidence because it's not reliable. It's a inauthentic hadith, and it's not a reliable hadith. So this refutes David Wood's Psycho's Ex-Con PDF, David Wood's Psycho's son, or his lying attention-seeking son. So stay tuned. More videos are coming up ahead refuting